Welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis. You're watching my review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 7, The Serene Squall. Paramount Plus has delivered a piratical adventure of epic proportions that has a lot of Easter eggs that refer back to the original series, various alien races that we didn't think we'd see again, Spock's epic backstory, and they sprinkled in a little romance, and I like the romance. I like that they did that. There was stuff happening in this episode that I didn't think I'd see, and we're going to get into it. Before we do, I need you to smash that like button and keep tuning into Voice of the Fat Mantis for all the latest Star Trek stuff. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, this episode is about a young female scientist who comes to the Federation and needs help moving colonists out of a zone that is usually plagued by pirates. Captain Pike even says in the beginning, this is the area of the Alpha Quadrant that is like the Wild West. And they need to go save these colonists. Unfortunately, when they get there, it is too late. They have been taken enslaved and across the border into a wild part of space that the Federation does not have any jurisdiction in. The episode ultimately plays as an allegory. The episode plays constantly with the themes with the duality of nature. Can you be one thing or the other? Can you be both? Can you be something in between? And why it perfectly and beautifully works out with Pride Month, because they actually had that scientist being played by Jessie James Keitel, who is a trans actress, who played her role very well. We're going to get into why exactly she was so awesome in just a minute. I'm sensing a reoccurring villain. They seem to be focusing a lot on Spock's love life in this series, but once again, this is played about the relationship between him and his fiancée. And she is worried that he is acting way too human. Quite frankly, I've been thinking he's been acting too human until he said a line that if he had said it before, I did not catch it before, and it kind of blew me away. He pointed out that he had not taken the ritual of Kolinar yet. And I'm like, that is a perfect thing to say and a perfect plot to put in. Because I've actually made references to Spock acting too human in the past. He is oftentimes acting entirely too emotional. Not super emotional, but he has these hints of emotion that I actually was a little annoyed with. I was like, well, Ethan Peck is deciding to go a different way than both Quinto or Nimoy. However, it turns out that he didn't do Kolinar. Now, what is Kolinar? Kolinar is the rite of, it's a ritual practice that you do at a monastery that is the final purging of all emotions. You do it sometime in adulthood when you've actually decided that this is the life you want to live, the life of logic. And so he hasn't done that. So if we see hints of emotion in Spock, it's because of that plot point, and I love that they did that. I'm giving them bonus points for putting that line and that concept in, because we might actually get to see Kolinar on film through this saga, and I can't wait to see it. It's going to be an interesting ride. Now, of course, it's all been a double play as the scientist tries to convince Spock to live on the border between his human and Vulcan life and not become a Kolinar's person. I think I made that word up. But to just live in a world of live in both worlds simultaneously, he seems to be resistant to this idea. He thinks it's absurd that you can. And this continues to play as the analogy goes on. The show beautifully references the Tholians, particularly with the weapon known as the Tholian web used in the early parts. It's not the Tholians attacking them. It's actually the pirates using their weapon. But in the classic original series Trek episode, The Tholian Web, it shows that a race called the Tholians have a technology that either through their ships or through asteroids or satellites, they can create energy webs that trap starships within them, which is a devastating weapon that the Federation doesn't actually have a way around. And it was just used for just a moment, just to reference this amazing race. Very few Tholians have ever been caught on camera. Why is this? It is a special effects nightmare. The Tholians are spider race. Their upper bodies do have long humanoid-like arms, but the rest of them are clearly spiders. Their bodies and voices are not compatible with our medicine or our universal translators. Not to mention, they live in 400 plus degree environment and are radioactive themselves. They are just basically the antithesis of normal life throughout the galaxy. I think they've probably been only seen twice in the original series and then again in Enterprise. But don't quote me on that. I could be off. Loved that reference. Now, we're going to have to move back on to Jesse James Keitel and her performance. She played an amazing villain who I'm sure is going to return as a reoccurring villain. She turns out to be the actual captain of the Serene Squall and the ultimate pirate. She's the pirate queen, if you will. She takes over the ship and is maniacal and beautifully disgusting at her villainy, and I'm sure she'll be back. She, at the end of the day, is trying to release a particular Vulcan criminal who was one of her lovers. She actually seems to have a history of banging Vulcan dudes. It was clear she was trying to do that to Spock, and I think that's a funny element to put into a character. And the villain turns out to be none other than Spock's half-brother, Sybok. That's right, there is a half-brother involved there. The ultimate edgelord. For those of you who remember his appearance from Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, he just goes against all status quo. He's the ultimate rebel. He's there to just rebel against Vulcan society and just stick it to the man. He's kind of like one of those kids who, like, back in the day, he was 13-year-old and he, like, would start smoking and people were like, "What are you doing, bro?" And he'd be like, "Whatever, man. God is dead." And then some kids, small-minded kids, would be like, "Oh my God, this guy is so edgy. I want to follow him to the ends of the earth," which is actually kind of the Final Frontier plot because he makes a cult in that. But anyway, moving on. And they do a very ominous ending to the story where they show his back in prison. It's clear Captain Angel will eventually free him, and we get to see all sorts of shenanigans. I love that they're building so much toward the future of this series. The B plot. Captain Pike gets taken by some pirates, and he is able to outsmart them, inspiring a mutiny within it. He offers to cook for them, and using that, he's outsmarting them. And it was really funny, and I love at the end, even though he's taken over the ship, he hasn't fully taken over the ship, so they're getting shot out while he's piloting, and it was a very cute, funny thing. I also got to say, I love those away outfits. Those away outfits, another bonus point on that, those looked very cool. The thing I didn't like is that they suited up in armor and they had these commando suits and they were ready and they went in there, and then when they got ambushed, they didn't fire once. They just allowed themselves to get captured. It's not very Pike of you, but you know, sometimes we all drop the ball. I will forgive you, brother. And then did I mention that there was romance? So we finally get the on-screen kiss between Nurse Chapel, who was a badass this episode, by the way, and Spock. And I love it. I was absolutely there for it. I think some people will be like, "This is cheesy romance." No, it is cute romance. It is lovely. We know the fate of Spock is that he's going to marry his fiancée, and I love his fiancée. T'Pring is a great character, and I love the actress they chose for her. So I am looking forward to that victory in his life, but I am just really hoping that him and Nurse Chapel have, like, maybe he'll break up with T'Pring for a while and have, like, an epic romance, but at the end they have to go their separate ways before the series ends. It's not fair that I call these reviews because they're more like breakdowns, because honestly, I have yet to see a bad episode. I keep being worried that the next episode is going to be bad, the next episode's going to be bad, but it hasn't come yet. I've got to say, I'm really impressed with this adaptation of Trek, and I can't wait to see many, many seasons of it. But the real question is, what did you all think about it? Please let me know down in the comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Keep tuning in to Voice of the Fat Mantis for more Star Trek reviews, analysis, breakdowns, interviews, and all the other nerd news that's fit to print. Until next time, ciao for now.